Hi, how are you today? Oh, my morning. How have you been? How has your week been? Wherever you're watching me from. And it's good once in a while to actually hear back from you. So when you watch these videos, talk to me and tell me something, because I intend for it to be a dialogue, so we can discuss these things and tell me, how is it with you in your world? Because these are things that we all go through every single day. They are casual life chats, casual life moments. They happen all the time in our lives. Conversations with family, with friends, about the things that we all face in different ways. Family, relationships, faith, love, kids, name it all, work. Yeah, and one of the reasons I actually started to post these videos or to do this channel is because me and my husband realized that we we as human beings, when we meet with friends or when we are going through life, we talk about things. We have conversations. We all do. Even you who's watching me, you have conversations with your partner, your friends, your family, your children, workmates, and sometimes you go away thinking, that was really a very good conversation, I wish other people had that, or had that advice, or had that opinion, or I wonder who thinks the same like me. I wonder who has the same opinion or perspective on this thing. So then I thought, you know what, in years to come, I will look back and revisit these videos and let them talk to me, because I know that this information will always be there on some platform in one way or another. So it's Friday. I'm on my way from work. I'm going home. Earlier on, I posted a little short video, and I was talking about when we were kids. We all remember when we were kids, especially those of us who are lucky to have lived now, are still living, or have been born in a different generation than the one that's on right now. That we lived in a normal world. Not to say that things were not happening, but there were things that were really paramount in the years that we were born. Well, like the 60s, 70s, 80s, probably in the little early 2000s, maybe 99, 2000, 2001. Things were different. Speaking of 2000, do you all remember the millennium, when we all thought the world was coming to an end? I remember I was in secondary school, and it's like the whole world was going to collapse. Anyway, back to my train of thoughts. I'm easily distracted, because I talk too much. Yeah. My friends, my family, they all know that. I will start a conversation, and before you know it, I'll be talking about something that's different, totally different. So when we were growing up, we would go out and play. The boys would go out and play soccer. The girls used to go out and catch up with their friends. We had friends, maybe in the neighborhood. People used to live closer to each other, maybe your aunties and uncles or grandparents. It was absolutely true to say that a child is raised by an entire village and a community. Forget about saying it now and a child is raised, but it was real. A child was raised. We were raised by the community. We were raised by the neighbors. They find you on the road doing something, you are beaten, you are, well, where I come from in Uganda, bwe bakusanga ku kkubo ng'okola ebintu ebitaliimu magezi, neighbour ng'akukuba kibooko, owulidde, neighbours would be responsible for disciplining you. Anyone, anyway, you were the community child, you were everybody's child. Now it's different, and I know that some of you agree with me. A child now is very delicate. The way we talk to them, who talks to them, what do they say to them, why are you talking to my child that way? If we go to school and maybe, let's say for example, my child was bullied at school, I can't just go to school and have a conversation with that child and my child and try to sort it out. Maybe even if it's in the presence of their parents. The parents don't want you to talk to their children about what happened. Things are swept under the carpet, and then things just get dysfunctional and more dysfunctional, because then we are raising up entitled children who are not even responsible for their own behaviors. Now it's no longer the case of you are responsible for your actions. No, the parents will step in, and they are so protective. We are also protective of our children, and so no one is holding them accountable for the things that they are doing. Let's talk about morality. Everybody will have their own definition of what that means. Morals, good morals. You know, we grew up hearing things like, you have bad manners. You know, olina empisa embi, olina emicwe embi. From the community where I come from, in Runyankole, they'll say, olina emicwe embi mwana we, olina emicwe embi. In Luganda, they say, mwana ono alina empisa embi. And in English, of course, oh, so-and-so's child, you know, they've got bad manners. We need to speak to the parents. Or they'll beat you and they'll say, you know, that was bad. Now, where are we going? I so believe that charity begins at home. I so believe that if we want to see the change that everybody is talking about, or some sort of improvement in our communities, then we are going to invest in raising our children right. You determine what raising your child right is. We all know that we are all outcomes of how we were raised. Well, it has a big contribution to who we are as adults. I'll give you an example. I come from Uganda, and I was raised different, definitely. And I've met people here in Australia from my same generation, you know, born in the 80s, who were raised the same way. My husband was raised in a totally different part of the world, in Europe, and we have a lot in common. We have conversations about what life was growing up. Well, I grew up in the village. For the most part, like, my parents lived in the village. My mom still lives in the village. I went to the city when I was 6 years old, and I lived with my mom's best friend. And it was easy to just be raised by her, because I mean, her and my parents agreed on what is right and what is wrong. There was no issues there. And my husband, we share the same experiences, because he grew up in the village as well, you know. As much as it's in a different country, in a different region in Europe, it was, you know, regional, country, village, whichever way you might call it. But Things like you go out, you meet your friends, you play soccer, you do this, you know your nieces, you know your nephews, you know your cousins, you know who is who in the zoo, like they say. You meet up, you don't only just know their names, you know their birthdays, you know the things like they like, and you have friends, real friends, not online friends. I feel like now, I know the children are spending so much time indoors. They're spending so much time on their devices. They're playing video games that pretty much promote violence and all different other things. And when you transact that and bring that out into the real world, well, they're angry kids, they're depressed kids, they're stressed kids. You call a child who's been on a video game for the last probably 1 or 2 hours, and they are in a different space of mind because they lost the game, because someone was mean to them or something happened in their video game. But this is reality. You're calling them to do something, or to have dinner, or to put away their clothes, or to have a shower, whatever it is. They feel like you are taking their time, and they're so upset and they're so angry, and because they've just lost a few minutes of their time from the video game. But that's not the real world. No wonder we read in the news every single day now there is something happening. Well, that's a little exaggeration, not every single day, but very, very, very common, very common these days. 14-year-olds, you hear, actually in Australia, maybe I should say every day on the news, or every 2 days on the news, there is a teenager who is involved in some sort of chaotic criminal behavior. They've broken into people's cars, or they've stabbed somebody, or they've done this, or they're walking around with knives in schools or shopping centers, or this or that, or it's pretty scary. These are young kids, 12-year-olds, 14. The stabbing I was telling you about the other day that happened in a church where the bishop was stabbed. It's a teenager. A teen. And I know mental health issues, of course, have a lot also to do with these things. But today, I'm just focusing on chatting with you about the role of online gaming, online friends, the online environment. I know that this is something that they talk about a lot in schools, and they call us in meetings and they talk about that. But do you actually let your children, force them to go out? You need to force them, because if they're not forced off those devices, they're not going to get out. Force them off those devices. Let them go out and be children. They have only one chance at being a child, at being children, at being teenagers, at being 10 and 9, and making real friends that they can rely on, confidence. Not chatting to someone in America when I'm in Uganda over and over and over again, when I cannot even have a conversation with the neighbor's kid down the road. Where we live in this, I'm giving an example. In Australia, where we live, where we all live, and I know in the Western world, it's the same in Uganda anyway. It is the same, because even Uganda is as good as the Western world. There is no difference. People watch the same things, they have access to the same things. So for those of you who think that, Africa is so behind, if I want my child to get better, they're misbehaving, and I am ethnic, I am from Uganda or wherever I'm from, whichever part of Africa, I'm gonna send them back home. Forget it. It's worse. The world is the same everywhere. The problems we have in Australia are pretty much the same problems the parents in Uganda have. The devices, social media platforms and video games and all that. It's the same games, it's the same everything. Wherever you are, just make time, have conversations with your children, teach them what is important. The most important thing in this life, other than life itself, is being a person of value, having good morals, good manners, knowing, how to treat people, knowing how to relate with people, social skills. Because what is going to happen is, once they are not teenagers anymore and they're young adults, they will not know how to relate with others. Well, maybe they're going to relate with what? AI. They're going to have AI partners. I know the world is moving to that, but wouldn't you want your child to have what you've had? Wouldn't you want your child to have a normal relationship? And by saying normal, I mean having a real human to relate with and knowing what to say, conversations, social skills, being able to go out and know that, such and such a day I'll take my friends out, or I'll go out with my friends and we'll have dinner and we'll have conversations without the phones, without just meeting over video games. Well, yeah, that is my opinion. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but from the look of things, it's like we are raising zombies. It's like we have little zombies walking around. Well, I'll tell you, in our home, our boys have to go out and play, whether they like it or they don't like it. If they feel so entitled and so upset about being forced to go out to the park to play basketball, or just take a walk, or take Romeo for a walk, or doing something out, if they feel that's too much infringement on their freedom, well, we take the internet away. Oh, we found out that they also have these games that they've downloaded that do not require them to have the internet. In that case, we all lock the house, we all go out, and we all have a good time out. Prayer in our home is not optional, it's mandatory. Church is not optional, it is mandatory. And you don't have to be a Christian at church, and you could be Muslim, you could be Buddhist, you could be whatever you are. It is important that we all collectively, as the human race of parents, do what we believe is right, considering how we were brought up and the things that matter most in this world are relationships, social responsibility, taking responsibility for your actions, gratitude, and many more things that you know as a parent that were important, that were instilled in you. Thank you for giving me company actually on this journey home. It's 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. on a Friday evening, and it is already dark where I am. The weather looks fantastic for a weekend to sleep. Looking forward to that. Yeah, take time to think about these things. They're important. They're as important as you buying a new car and buying a bigger house and buying them the latest shoes and clothes and all the things that these entitled little humans we have around this generation want, and they feel like they're entitled to your money until they start making their own money, then they will know how valuable money is. Me, I am of the opinion, as you may tell by now, the children need to be raised by you. We cannot let video games raise these children. They are doing a really bad job at that. You know, have you noticed the games they play on those video games? How violent they are. The ones that suck them in. Fortnite. What do they play there? There is another one. Well, I don't know much about these games, but yeah, it's like everything that is manifested now out there has already been created in the video game world. And so see it happening, and we're like, what? A 12-year-old did what? Well, what have they been watching? Who have they been spending time with? Who has been parenting them? Who have they been speaking to? Who are their friends? Before we even bring in the whole concept of mental health, before we get to that, I know it has a lot to do, because if you're spending more than 24 hours, 12 hours, depending on how many hours your child has free, if you're spending those many hours in your room, how is your emotional state when you win a game, when you lose a game, when, the people that you interact with on these video games? And how old are they anyway? So let us invest time in raising children that we are actually going to be proud of. We're getting old. We often have this conversation with my friends. We're getting old. We're not getting any younger. And so we want to look back at what we have done. We want to look back and see the fruits of our labor. We want to look at our children and be proud. We want to see human beings that have good morals, that actually are kind, that know how to treat others, that know how to talk in public. If you're in public and they can't even have a conversation, start up a conversation, it's pretty hard. I was told once, when I asked my son why he doesn't ring me. He contacts me on these social media platforms. He's okay sending me a WhatsApp or sending me a message on, chat, just messages. But if I got my phone to call him, he struggles to hold like a proper conversation and all that. And I said to him, what was that? What was that about? Why is it so hard for you to have a full-on conversation without just finding it so hard? And he said, well, we don't talk on phones. You Snapchat, you do this. Now we are raising people who are just communicating with pictures, and that's a problem. I think I've talked too much. I warned you already. I told you I talked too much, but it's okay. It's for a good cause, it's for a good cause. It's for a good cause. It's for our children. We want humans that are good. We want humans that are wonderful, that we can be proud of. Take care. I'll speak to you soon. Be good to yourself. Contribute to your community. And make sure that you are investing time in your children, and pay attention to the warning signs from your child. They are there. You know your child better. You know what a warning sign is for when they are not well, or when they are struggling, or when they need space. And take a moment to reflect and support them. We are sick and tired and upset and worried every single day when we have to read the news about an 11-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 13-year-old, a 14-year-old who has just gone out and done something really crazy. And then when you dig deeper, you realize that there were issues there that were never addressed. So let's agree to be the parents that we would all be so proud of. And there is no excuse. If your parents were not good and you did not get a good example, that's not an excuse. There is no excuse. Do what is best. Do what is best. There's a lot of information out there on parenting, and you yourself know what is right and wrong. So there's no excuse. There is never an excuse not to do the right thing. Is that a quote? I don't know. So, yeah. Thank you for watching and listening. Till next time. Bye.